Yo, what's shaking, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Orange Bloods Texas Football Channel. I'm Geoff Ketchum. That is Anwar Richardson. We are both in blue today. It doesn't have anything to do with Rogue Apothecary. I can't think, I try to think of a cool little way to connect that. I don't feel blue when I'm on Rogue. I need Rogue right now, as a matter of fact, to deal with all of the zaniness in my life.
You want mine, Catch? Let me send you some of mine.
Oh, no. I'm going to just take the bottle. Thanks to Rogue Apothecary, therogueshop.com, for being the Monday Overreaction Show sponsor. Whether it's the gummies, whether it is the cartridges, whether it is the salves, whatever it is that you have your needs for, the product is great. We, between Anwar, myself, Alex, there's a plethora of users to the Rogue product on the staff. We thank you. It is a Monday Overreaction Show. Anwar and I both have overreactions, but I think I like Anwar's best. So we will start there. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, do all those things, please. And we will continue to ask. I don't know why I would ever say we won't ask you to, but thank you for those of you who listen occasionally. Anwar, serve it up. Give me an overreaction.
You know, Catch, it's really interesting. Over the past weekend, you got Texas that played against Texas Tech in basketball again, second time within the last, what has it been, week or two, couple of weeks or something like that. And it was also very interesting, Catch, one of the things I had in my column, and speaking of Texas Tech, someone had projected, what it looks like for a Texas schedule once they go into the SEC. And one of the teams that they have there, Catch, that they would project that Texas continue to play would be Texas Tech. I'm trying to pull it up right now. I think it's done by the SEC podcast, I believe is what they put out that projection. Catch, based off of a lot of different factors, I would say, and I want to make sure I got it. Yes, it was that SEC podcast that put it out, so I make sure I give them the proper credit. Based off of everything I've seen over the past couple of weeks as it relates to Texas Tech and their clear hatred for Texas and the Longhorns and everything Longhorn related, my overreaction is this. The moment Texas goes into the SEC, they need to put the Big 12, especially Texas Tech, in their rearview mirror. Never play the Raiders again, unless it has to be in some sort. And I'm talking about football primarily. Maybe you want to do something basketball occasionally or something like that. I say they put everybody in the rearview mirror the same way Texas A&M put the Big 12 in the rearview mirror and said, we ain't messing with none of you guys ever again, even if it's a bowl game. We don't want nothing to do with you. Catch, when the Texas leaves, they need to follow A&M's example, especially as relates to the Raiders, and say, never again in our lifetime are we going to play you unless you're somehow, some way, you're in our same conference.
Man, I'll take it one step further.
Okay.
Fuck Texas Tech, for real. Here's my thing.
Hit them up.
Because I'm 45, about to be 46 years old, and there is a thing in my life that I have reached in my middle age, right? God, that sounds horrible to say out loud. But I just don't like messing with people who don't like me. So I don't want drama. I don't want problems. A good day is when I don't have to run across some jackass who's just gets into my orbit and brings bad energy. And I kind of feel like that's who Texas Tech is for Texas right now. It is a school that Texas just doesn't really care about. Same with Baylor. Texas has rivals. And you experienced this season with Arkansas. Texas fans care a lot more about that Arkansas game and talked about it all offseason last year in a way where you can't schedule Texas Tech on Thanksgiving to make Texas fans care. You can't schedule Baylor. And the Baylor stuff runs deeper in terms of all the scandals and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, these people hate you. It's their Super Bowl. They get up for playing Texas in a way that's kind of unhealthy. I don't mind buying a bunch of seats and taking over the Irwin Center. But over the course of the last month, this has been bad breakup stuff. And the idea that on the way out, you would commit more time with them. No, clean breaks. That's what works. Not slow playing it, trying to let someone down softly. When I look at Texas Tech, I see a school that will be perfectly fine without Texas. Texas doesn't need Texas Tech. And yeah, like I don't know why you would. I don't know why you would add. There's no SEC school really outside of Florida playing Florida State. There's a couple. There's no reason for the game. Go find some patsy. Don't put yourself in a situation where you're adding a road game once a year. Like everything about it just screams, don't do it. Including the fact Texas fans don't want it. The idea that Texas administrators would lock themselves in for a long-term relationship in a series with Texas Tech, that just sounds like something that no Texas fan has ever asked for in the history of their life. And you know what? Texas basketball just beat Texas twice. That didn't help. That did not help Texas's resume. So as Texas, I'm with you, Anwar, as Texas is moving forward for probably different reasons than you to a certain extent. I just don't know that this drama is needed. That when Texas gets into the SEC and they're playing Texas A&M and they're playing Arkansas and they have bigger fish to fry, why would you even deal with it? And Texas Tech just feels like a headache that Texas doesn't need to worry about moving forward. The whole point moving to the SEC is to move on to greener pastures, to move on to a new lease on life. I just don't quite understand making Texas Tech or forcing Texas Tech to be a yearly rival when no such thing has ever existed. Texas Tech has been the school that Texas mostly beats in everything. And Texas Tech treats every game like it's their Super Bowl. And then you add the Chris Beard thing to it, and it feels like an unhealthy relationship where one side has so much emotion involved in it. And the other side is, I can do with or without it. In a situation, that's unhealthy. And I'm just about eliminating things that make for an unhealthy mental mindset. And I think we've seen some of that in the last month or so. It's just unhealthy.
Yeah, I mean, Ketch, we were talking about a basketball team of young men who needed a police escort for a walkthrough. I mean, you want to talk about what hostility looks like? This is that hostility. I mean, like you talk about bad breakups. This is Angela Bassett setting the car on fire and walking away. This is the reports of Tech fans trying to hack into the Texas system in order to buy a bunch of tickets in order to have more Tech fans there than anyone else, and then Texas fans. Like, it's ugly. Like, it's very ugly. You could say some of that's just a Chris Beard thing, but it translates into a football conversation as well. And what Texas is going to have, and what Texas has got to come to grips with quickly is you are the bad guy. Like, you want to say hello to the bad guy. You are the bad guy. You are viewed.
You're Angela Bassett's husband.
Yes.
Waiting to exhale.
Yes.
Forever.
And guess what? When they light your shit on fire, everybody's going to applaud. There was nobody at that moment when she was walking away like, man, that's messed up. That's destruction of property. Like, why are you doing that? And he's got to replace that.
Just committed a felony.
Yes. It was just a slow-mo walk away. Like, she done did the damn thing. And that's what Texas will be for everybody. It doesn't matter what the perception is. It doesn't matter how wrong it's going to be. They're the team that's leaving. They're the team that's screwing over everyone else. They're the team that thinks they're better than everyone else. They don't have that much hate for Oklahoma. Like, no one's really coming after OU with that kind of like, man, F those guys. But when it comes to Texas, well, there's a huge F you. There's a huge F you. And, when they travel going forward, it's always going to be hate. It's always going to be hostility. And at this point, what's the benefit, Ketch? What's the win for Texas to play Texas Tech again? There is no win. It's a win for Tech for sure. Like, they beat Texas they get to, that's a notch on the belt. That's the notch on the bedpost. That's being able to say like, okay, yeah, we did the damn thing. We beat Texas. They're not even that good. Look at them. They can't even, beat us. They can't beat us in the Big 12. They can't beat us in the SEC. At that point, you just got to say, you know what? We're not together. Hey, it's you. It's not me. Whatever you want to freaking say, but you got to make the breakup happen. It's got to be clean.
Yeah, one of the things that it feels like the quiet thing from this weekend when Texas Tech fans got really excited because they bought a bunch of tickets to go to the Irwin Center. The thing that nobody wanted to say out loud, which is true, Texas fans didn't want to go to that game. They don't care about Texas Tech. It was like, oh, there's a rush to sell out the game. Only from one side.
Yeah, that's true.
It wasn't like there was a race between Texas fans and Texas Tech fans to fill up the arena. Tech fans just filled up the arena because Texas fans don't care. Like, it's kind of as simple as that. And I want to be careful I want to make sure that this isn't me like hating on Tech. It really isn't. I mean, like I said, Texas Tech will be fine when it's all said and done. The Big 12 is going to continue. It's going to be a power conference. They're going to, they'll be average in football. They got a chance to be great in basketball, and they've got a chance, their baseball, all their programs will be fine. It's not Texas' responsibility to carry Texas Tech. So this isn't like, oh, don't go slumming it with Texas. It's not about that. It's about this game in the future does nothing for Texas. And how do I know that? Because it does nothing for them now. The only memorable games in the history of Texas and Texas Tech are games that Texas Tech have won. Because it doesn't matter. Can you remember a Texas fan ever talking up a Texas Tech win ever in the almost decade that you've been here?
No.
But when Texas Tech wins, it is a stain that lasts until that game is played again and Texas wins. And it is just one of those situations where there's just nothing in it for Texas. And I don't have anything against Texas Tech. I don't care about Texas Tech. So it wouldn't be like, oh, Ketchum's doing that anti-Texas Tech thing. I don't care. But when I look ahead moving forward, Anwar, I just think you got it exactly right. Why would you play in a game on a yearly basis or even a semi-annual basis where there's zero upside for you and nothing but punchlines and imminent danger should you lose? Like, that doesn't sound like anything that you and I would do in our lives. Hey, let's do this activity that's not fun, but if anything bad happens whatsoever, it like ruins your life for a little while. Like, we don't do that. Like I said, I'm about to be 46 years old. I'm just trying to eliminate drama in my life. And Texas Tech just feels like unwanted drama. And it's up to the Texas administrators to not get caught up in well, we don't want to hurt nobody's feelings too bad. And politically, we need to, this thing's happening. And Texas Tech doesn't have a real leg to stand on. And I think deep down what Texas administrators are doing is they're just placating Texas Tech administrators just to kind of get down to the finish line as close as possible. I don't truly believe that the athletic decision makers want a real relationship with Texas Tech. You know why? Because say what you want to about the L-types of the world and the members of the Board of Regents, and they seem to have a pretty good feel of the pulse of Texas fans. This isn't academics making decisions that impact the athletic department now moving forward. These are athletic fans. These are people who are heavily invested in Texas athletics doing well. If something sounds too strange to be good moving forward, I'm going to propose that it is. And I think the whole annual game against Texas Tech thing is something that we've seen pushed from the Texas Tech side of things. I don't hear Texas fans or reporters or administrators or anybody talking about it in the same breath and the same tone. And I think moving forward, I think we will eventually get to a point where Texas Tech will be in the rearview mirror. But if for any reason someone is thinking otherwise, they need to wake the hell up. And look, again, not anything against Texas Tech. What is in it for Texas? And I'm not quite sure I've heard a single thing. It's not because you want to get into recruiting. It's like, oh, well, we got to have a presence in West Texas for recruiting. No, you don't. Texas Tech barely has a presence in recruiting in West Texas. There's no talent out there. So the game doesn't need to be played. Their fans hate Texas way more than Texas fans could even begin to muster the kind of angst and like negative feeling about Texas Tech. So, yeah. I'm with you.
By the way, Ketch, piggybacking on another overreaction as relates to that, when it comes to the non-conference schedule, I think Texas has got to stop scheduling these killers and putting them on the schedule. Like I am actually not a fan of the non-conference schedule. Now, I get what the elephant in the room was as it relates to the non-conference schedule. Once, certain things happen, there's no Texas A&M. Texas didn't have a lot of sexy games to really offer fans, right? And so when you don't have sexy games, you go ahead out and you're trying to schedule sexy games. You don't have the Thanksgiving rivalry game. They tried it. It didn't work with the other teams. So I get the need to say, let's schedule Bama prior to the SEC, schedule Ohio State, schedule Michigan, schedule Florida. Like I got why they were trying to make the schedule sexy, but you've got 9 sexy games in the SEC. Like every single one of those games will be considered sexy to a certain degree, even if it's a Vanderbilt, okay? Like to a certain degree, it's still gonna be like, oh, damn, get to play Vanderbilt. Like, you'll be more hype over that than any other, the majority of Big 12 games. And, I know you talked about taking Bama off the schedule this year, next year, and I've never been a fan of that. But I think going forward, understanding that, they've got Ohio State that they've got scheduled. Like, Ketch, they start off in 2025. They're at Ohio State, San Jose State, and then UTEP before they even get into the SEC schedule. Ketch, to me, you can take Ohio State off that schedule. Like this, hey, it's been cool. It was a good thought, but you don't need to do Ohio State. There's a reason why, Ketch, Texas hasn't started the season 3-0 since like 2013. I mean, there's a reason why, and it's because of this. And everybody else, the one thing I give Oklahoma a lot of credit for, Ketch, Oklahoma was never really trying to load up on killers, right? Yeah. I mean, Oklahoma was like, give us the Armies of the world, give me your directional schools, like give us all that. We're going to build momentum over these 3 games. We're going to curb stomp a bunch of guys. And then by the time we hit the Big 12, we're going, we're smoking, we're cooking with grease. And Texas never did that. Texas like, no, let's get a badass team in week 2, lose, try to rebound in week 3. By week 2, Ketch, after week 2, it was, all our goals are still ahead of us. That's all. That was always what happened. You know what I'm saying?
Anwar, what's funny is you just nailed a 20-year talking point. Spot on. Oklahoma for years. And it's not that Oklahoma's never had, I don't want Oklahoma fans watching the video to say, we played Ohio State, and I'm not saying that Oklahoma hasn't had an occasional high-profile opponent on its non-conference schedule. But over the course of 20 years, they've probably been less aggressive in having a marquee opponent in their first 3 games than Texas. And the feeling always was, well, that'll backfire against Oklahoma because not playing any good teams. So when they play Texas in October, they won't be ready for a real game. You know what? History proved they were pretty ready.
Yes.
Just so you know,
more times than not.
Their methods won a lot of Big 12 championships. Texas's methods have won 3, and really 2 since the John Malkovich era. So, there's been a lot of thought that for a long time that Texas was doing it the right way. And in reality, they've just done themselves no favors.